Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, wir begrüßen Sie und heißen Sie herzlich willkommen zu der Eröffnung von den 15. Balkantagen. Die Balkantage werden von den Verein Hilfe von Mensch zu Mensch veranstaltet. Innerhalb des Teams glauben wir fest seit 1992 daran, dass die Begegnung von Menschen über kulturelle Grenzen, hinweg, Perspektiven und Chancen schafft. Die Balkantage fördern den Dialog zwischen Kulturen und Lebensweisen aller Länder auf der Balkanhalbinsel. Das Symbol von Balkantagen ist die Balkanblume. Die Blütenblätter zeigen die einzelnen Landesfahnen. Jede einzigartige Kultur trägt dazu bei, dass der Balkan vielfältig und lebendig ist. Vielfältig sind auch die Menschen, die die Balkantage organisieren. Seit 14 Jahren bringt sie Menschen zusammen und begeistert sie für die Balkantage. Sie ist der Kopf und das Herz der Balkantage. Meine Damen und Herren, es ist mir eine Ehre, unsere Gründerin, Frau Sadia Klepo, zu begrüßen.
Es ist mir große Freude, Sie im Namen des Veranstalters des Vereins Hilfe von Mensch zu Mensch hier in schönen Gasteig in München bei den 15. Balkantagen begrüßen zu dürfen. Herzlich willkommen! Unser Festival Balkantage dieses Jahres wird etwas anderes gestaltet. Wir haben einen ersten Teil des Festivals, das virtuell stattfindet, und wir haben einen zweiten Teil, wo wir überall, auch hier im Gasteig, Konzerte und auch überall in der Stadt Filme zeigen werden und unser Bazar organisiert werden, bei denen Sie viele Leute nicht nur aus dem Balkanraum, sondern auch viele Leute, die hier in München leben, sehr freuen. Bazar ist ein Platz der Begegnung, ein Platz der Freude, des Tanzens, ein Platz, wo man Cevapcici isst, und wir freuen uns wirklich auch dieses Jahr, diese wunderschöne Veranstaltung live zu gestalten. Das Thema unserer 15. Balkantage ist die junge Generation in die Zukunft der Region. Wir wollen mit diesem Thema sowohl die jungen Menschen auf dem Balkan ansprechen, aber auch junge Menschen, die hier in Deutschland, aber überall auf der Welt in der Diaspora leben. Wir wollen feststellen, ob diese Menschen noch immer eine Beziehung, eine Connection zu der Heimat haben und was können sie gemeinsam machen, dass unsere Region, Balkanregion, eine bessere Zukunft hat. Das Festival ist integrativ und vielfältig. Wir haben eine Ausstellung, wir haben ein Theaterstück, wir haben verschiedene Kooperationen, zum Beispiel mit den Kammernspielen, Münchner Kammernspielen. Wir haben Kooperation mit der Südosteuropa-Gesellschaft und wir haben natürlich viele Kooperationspartner in Medien, wie zum Beispiel Superradio München, unser Hauptsponsor, der auch sehr viel für diese virtuelle aktuelle Darstellung der Balkantage beiträgt. In den vergangenen 14 Jahren haben wir bei den Balkantagen verschiedenste Themen, aktuelle Themen behandelt. Zum Beispiel letztes Jahr Frauen aus dem Balkan. Wo bleibt der Respekt? Oder zum Beispiel ein Jahr vorher Raum der Möglichkeiten. Wir wollen zeigen, wie Balkanregion interessant ist, auch für Investitionen, für Tourismus und alle anderen Bereiche. Wir haben 2018 auch ein Thema behandelt. Das Thema hieß Traumland Deutschland, aber wir haben über eine Massenauswanderung aus der Balkanregion gesprochen. Und wir haben alle diese schmerzlichen Themen der Länder nach dem Krieg auf dem Balkan angesprochen. Weiterhin haben wir über den langen Schatten der jugoslawischen Kriege gesprochen. Und wir haben auch den wahren Balkan entdecken gezeigt und im Grunde zwei sehr schwierige Themen. Einmal Roma auf dem Balkan und einmal 100 Jahre nach dem Sarajevo-Attentat. Diese Themen waren sehr schwierig zu behandeln, aber wir haben nicht gesagt, es ist Attentat, es ist Aggression. Wir haben eine Plattform für die Gespräche, für eine Versöhnung. Wir haben eine Plattform für eine Integration der Menschen aus dem Balkan gestellt. Natürlich, unsere Balkantage würden nicht ohne unsere Förderer möglich. Wir bedanken uns ganz herzlich beim Kulturreferat und beim Migrationsbeirat der Landeshauptstadt München, bei der Bayerischen Staatskanzlei und wir bedanken uns besonders Neustart Kultur, der Beauftragten der Bundesregierung für Kultur und Medien. Es ist mir große Freude, Sie bei den 15. Balkantagen im Namen des Veranstalters des Vereins Hilfe von Mensch zu Mensch begrüßen zu dürfen.
Uživajte zajedno s nama u 15. po redu danima Balkana.
Gemeinsames Singen, Tanzen und Lachen wird es zur Eröffnung der Balkantage dieses Jahr leider nicht geben. Gerade ist es normal, nicht zusammen zu sein und nicht zusammen zu feiern. Trotzdem waren wir entschlossen, die Balkantage stattfinden zu lassen. Denn die Balkantage leben von Austausch miteinander. Menschen sollen miteinander in Verbindung treten. Wir haben uns der Herausforderung gestellt und das Festival zu einer Online-Plattform gemacht. Balkan Connection 2.0. Kontakte zu knüpfen wird so auch in diesem Jahr möglich sein, nur eben digital. Das gibt uns die wunderbare Möglichkeit, miteinander sprechen, egal wo wir wohnen. Und so stehen auch die diesjährigen Balkantage, gerade in diesen schwierigen Zeiten, für Austausch, Nähe und Miteinander.
Ja ne znam gdje si ti, ja ne znam s kim si ti. U ovoj noći kad se sve dijeli na pola, osim bola, ja ne znam gdje si. Saznati da li si našla sklonište, kućicu ili dvorište života svoga. Da je tuga sve, da se do jutra otopi, mogao bih i ja konačno kad oči zatvori, da se ne umori. Da je tuga bre, pa da je vjetar ogoli, ja ne bih mogao ni tad ko što ne mogu ni sad da te prebolim.
Im Rahmen der Balkantage zeigen Vereine, Künstlerinnen und Künstler jedes Jahr, wie vielfältig die Kultur Südosteuropas ist. Wir freuen uns, dass Münchens Oberbürgermeister Dieter Reiter auch in diesem Jahr die Schirmherrschaft des Festivals übernommen hat. Zur Eröffnung der Balkantage wird nun die zweite Oberbürgermeisterin Katrin Habenschaden ein kurzes Grußwort sprechen.
Sehr geehrte Damen, sehr geehrte Herren, es ist mir eine besondere Freude und es ist mir eine Ehre, Sie heute bei der festlichen Eröffnung der 15. Balkantage ganz offiziell begrüßen zu dürfen. Mit einer spannenden Mischung aus Filmen, Ausstellungen, Literatur, Musik, Folklore und Diskussionsforen bieten die Balkantage in München einen Einblick in die große kulturelle Vielfalt Osteuropas. Und das jetzt schon seit 14 Jahren. Sie sind damit längst zu einem festen Bestandteil der Münchner Kulturlandschaft geworden. In diesem Jahr müssen zwar viele der Programmpunkte pandemiebedingt online stattfinden, wie auch zum Beispiel die heutige Eröffnung, aber immerhin kann die internationale, digitale Vernetzung vieler Beteiligter von den neuen Formaten auch profitieren. Die Balkantage ermöglichen es, die Kulturen der Balkanländer hier in München besser kennenzulernen. Denn diese Kulturen gehören untrennbar zu München. Schließlich machen die Staatsangehörigen der Balkanländer etwa 1/10 der Münchner Stadtbevölkerung aus. Dabei sind die Deutschen mit einer Migrationsgeschichte aus dieser Region noch gar nicht mitgerechnet. Die Bedeutung der Balkantage für unsere Stadtgesellschaft liegt aber auch im Dialog zwischen den Kulturen, zwischen den Lebensweisen aller Länder auf der Balkanhalbinsel. Sie beschreiben sich ja auch selbst als ein Friedensprojekt, das sich für Verständigung, für Austausch zwischen diesen Ländern einsetzt. München ist eine Stadt des interkulturellen und interreligiösen Miteinanders. Sie profitiert seit Jahrzehnten von den unterschiedlichsten Kulturen. Menschen aus über 180 Nationen leben hier in München gut und friedlich zusammen. Und diese kulturelle Vielfalt hält uns als Gesellschaft offenherzig und lebendig. Als Bürgermeisterin der Landeshauptstadt setze ich mich für ein buntes, ich setze mich für ein weltoffenes München ein. Wir alle sind gefordert, Flagge zu zeigen, für ein Klima der Toleranz, der Weltoffenheit in unserer Stadtgesellschaft. Und gerade deshalb sind wir auch besonders froh über Beiträge aus der Mitte der Stadtgesellschaft, die das interkulturelle Klima in München stärken. Und dafür sind Ihre Balkantage ein ganz besonders schönes Beispiel. Durch ihre thematische Ausrichtung haben die Balkantage immer auch einen starken Bezug zu den Entwicklungen in den Balkanstaaten und den Menschen, die dort ihre Wurzeln haben, genommen. Dieses Jahr geht es unter dem Motto Balkan Connection 2.0 um die junge Generation und die Zukunft der Region. Die Anknüpfung an aktuelle Themen und Entwicklungen ist ein großer Gewinn, denn an der Situation in den Balkanländern besteht in unserer Stadt ganz großes Interesse. Schließlich empfinden wir uns in München nicht nur in geografischer Hinsicht als im Herzen Europas gelegen. Mein besonderer Dank gilt an dieser Stelle dem Veranstalter der Balkantage, dem Verein Hilfe, von Mensch zu Mensch, für die Bereicherung des kulturellen Lebens in München. Und natürlich allen Teilnehmerinnen und Teilnehmern der vor uns liegenden Veranstaltungen wünsche ich viele anregende Kulturerlebnisse und ganz interessante Begegnungen. Ihre Katrin Habenschal.
Ona ima oči ko zainteresane se, moje tuge sve i moje nemire. Ona ima ruke i u njima se čitavi, u tom zagrljaju mogu umreti. U tom zagrljaju mogu umreti. Bože, meni tako malo treba ispod ovog svetog neba, topla postelja i njena oka dva. Šalji anđele čuvare svoje, jer duša duše moje brani je vodca. Bože, kad ne mogu ja, kad ne mogu ja.
schon mehrfach Förderer der Balkantage und beim interkulturellen Festival der Vielfalt nicht wegzudenken ist der Migrationsbeirat der Landeshauptstadt München. Wir freuen uns, die Vorsitzende des Migrationsbeirats hier begrüßen zu dürfen, Dimitrina Lang.
Meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren, liebe Zuschauerinnen und Zuschauer, liebe Sadir und liebes Team von Verein Hilfe von Mensch zu Mensch, ich nutze die Gelegenheit, Sie alle als Vorsitzende des Münchner Migrationsbeirates hier begrüßen zu dürfen. Es ist nicht selbstverständlich, dass die Balkantage dieses Jahr stattfinden. In Zeiten der Pandemie versucht man einfach andere Wege zu finden, anderen Rahmen zu finden, sich zu treffen und trotzdem wichtige Themen auf die Tagesordnung zu bringen und sich auch, wenn dann auch online, nur zu sehen und sich dann auch auszutauschen. Wir als Migrationsbeirat haben diese Veranstaltung von Anfang an unterstützt und werden das auch künftig wieder machen. Es ist nicht, die Balkantage sind von Münchner Stadtleben, also von Münchner täglichen Geschehen nicht mehr wegzudenken. In München leben sehr viele Menschen vom Balkan und natürlich prägen somit mit ihren Erfahrungen, mit ihren Lebensstil, mit ihren natürlich auch wunderbaren Tänzen und Musik die Stadtgesellschaft und sind aber auch natürlich in sehr vielen Bereichen auch aktiv, auch unter anderem auch politisch. Es gibt auch viele Mitglieder vom Balkan im Münchner Migrationsbeirat und natürlich setzen wir uns dann sehr stark für ihre Interesse und Anliegen ein. Was auch noch wichtig zu sagen ist, also es gibt ein buntes Programm. Ich werde auch selber dabei sein. Ich werde mir auch selber ein paar Sachen, also habe ich mir schon vorgemerkt, die mich dann auch besonders interessieren. Aber natürlich ist es ganz wichtig, das Thema, was dieses Jahr wieder sehr interessantes Thema ausgesucht wurde, und zwar die Jugend oder wie die demografische Entwicklung auf dem Balkan ist. Und da bin ich wirklich sehr gespannt auf die Diskussion und auf das, was Sie oder das Team von Hilfe von Mensch zu Mensch wieder für uns alle organisiert hat und sicher mit einer großen Spannung auch vortragen wird. An der Stelle wünsche ich Ihnen und euch allen auch natürlich ganz viel Spaß und ich hoffe, wir sehen uns bald wieder.
Im Rahmen der Balkantage wird auch ein großer Balkanbasar organisiert, der schon seit Jahren ein Ort des Treffens für unterschiedliche Generationen sowie Nationen ist. Wir beginnen mit dem Kinderprogramm, der mit dem Tanzbewegungsspiel Wenn du fröhlich bist eröffnet wird. Mit dem Kinderprogramm, der aus 2 Kreativecken besteht, möchten wir besonders die junge Generation ansprechen, und zwar mit Vorführungen, traditionellen Kinderspielen und Ausstellungen. Danach werden auf dem Basar traditionelle Produkte aus dem Balkangebiet vorgestellt und verkauft, sodass es für jeden etwas gibt. Kunst, Bücher, Handarbeit und natürlich köstliche Spezialitäten aus dem Balkan. Basare sind immer Orte der Begegnung. Auf unserem Basar kommen jedes Jahr viele Menschen zusammen. Junge Menschen und ältere Menschen. Und junge Menschen profitieren von dem Wissen und der Erfahrung der älteren Menschen. Stift ist schon seit Jahren Kooperationspartner der Balkantage. Nun jetzt ist uns eine Ehre, Herr Benka zu begrüßen. Herr Siegfried Benka ist der Geschäftsführer der Münchner Stift, die in 13 Häusern verschiedene Wohn- und Pflegeformen für Seniorinnen und Senioren anbietet. Herr Benka.
Einen schönen guten Tag. Mein Name ist Siegfried Benka, ich bin der Geschäftsführer der Münchner Stift. Die Münchner Stift ist der größte Anbieter von Altenpflege in München. Wir haben insgesamt 2100 Plätze, vollstationäre Plätze für Seniorinnen und Senioren, insgesamt 3000 Plätze und einen großen ambulanten Dienst. Seit 2018 kooperieren wir mit den Balkantagen, organisiert über den Verein Hilfe von Mensch zu Mensch. Bereits 2018 hatten wir wunderbare Veranstaltungen in den Häusern. Auch 2020 wollten wir welche haben, konnten wir aber wegen Corona leider nicht durchführen. Aber im Jahr 2021 werden wir weitere Veranstaltungen haben. Das Tolle ist, dass die Balkantage wirklich etwas anderes Leben in die Häuser bei uns hineinbringen, für die Bewohnerinnen und Bewohner, aber gleichzeitig auch für unsere Mitarbeiterinnen und Mitarbeiter, von denen viele aus den Ländern des Balkan kommen. Ich möchte mich auf alle Fälle bedanken für diese tolle Kooperation, die wirklich uns allen, unseren Bewohnern, unseren Mitarbeitern wirklich nützt und große Freude in die Häuser reinbringt. Ich wünsche den Balkantagen im Jahre 2021 einen großen Erfolg und wir freuen uns auf eine weitere Kooperation.
Die diesjährigen Balkantage sind ein Hybridfestival. Das bedeutet, unser Programm besteht aus Online- und aus Präsenzveranstaltungen. Im ersten Teil haben wir 4 große Veranstaltungen, die virtuell stattfinden. Den Literaturtag mit 2 jungen Autorinnen aus Nordmazedonien und Kroatien, ein Theaterstück von jungen Tänzerinnen und Tänzern aus Serbien, das in Kooperation mit den Münchner Kammerspielen gestreamt wird, eine Ausstellung von Kunst- und Musikstudentinnen und Studenten und Künstlerinnen aus Bosnien und zum Abschluss des ersten Teils unser großes Zukunfts-Online-Forum der jungen Generation, eine Diskussionsrunde mit jungen Menschen vom Balkan und Migrationsexpertinnen zu der Frage Gehen oder bleiben. Geplant für den Sommer sind außerdem Konzerte, Filmvorführungen und unser traditioneller Balkanbasar. Ob digital oder vor Ort, online oder Präsenz, wir freuen uns sehr auf Sie, unser Publikum, denn von Ihnen leben die Balkantage.
Hotikuti, hotikuta. Oh, tico, 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 tock. This tico, tico is the cuckoo in my clock. And when he says boo-boo, it means it's time to woo. It's tico time for all the lovers in the block. I've got a heavy date, tico, tico, tell me is it getting late? If I'm on time to woo, but if I'm late, boo-boo, the one my heart is going to may not want to wait.
Ove godine na svečanom otvorenju Dana Balkana 2021. godine družit ćemo se virtualno. Nažalost, vi, naša publika, nećete ispuniti naše dvorane svojom energijom, smijehom, plesom i pjesmom. Sretni smo što vam u ova teška vremena možemo kroz našu online platformu Balkan Konekcija 2.0 pružiti osjećaj blizine naših ljudi koje ste na festivalu Dani Balkana susretali na svakom koraku. Uživajte zajedno s nama u 15. po redu Danima Balkana.
Ja, sehr verehrte Gäste, liebe Freunde, liebe Mitglieder und Mitarbeiter der Migranten und des Migranten- und Flüchtlingsvereins Hilfe von Mensch zu Mensch. Im Namen des Vorstands darf ich Sie heute zusammen mit Sadia Klepo, der Gründerin des Vereins und auch der Initiatorin für die Balkantage zur Eröffnung der 12. Balkantage begrüßen.
Guten Abend von meiner Seite. Ich heiße herzlich willkommen Frau Diana Stachowitz, Mitglied des Bayerischen Landtages. Sie ist eine große Unterstützerin unseres Vereins. Genauso haben wir riesige Unterstützung von unserer Dimitrina Lang, den Vorsitzenden des Migrationsbeirates der Landeshauptstadt München. Besonders freue ich mich über die Grußworte von Marko Stojanovic, der aus Belgrad kommt. Insider sagen, er ist der beste Entwicklungsmanager für die sozialen Projekte auf dem Balkan. Als der Leiter des Westbalkans-Instituts hat er viele erfolgreiche Teams gegründet und europäische Projekte durchgeführt.
Traumland Deutschland. Das ist der anspruchsvolle, aber auch zum Nachdenken anregende Titel dieser Balkantage.
So, liebe Publikum, von so hohen Emotionen, ich dürfte eigentlich gar nicht reden, aber trotzdem möchte ich meine Tänzerinnen und Tänzer sehr bedanken für die Mühe, was die gegeben haben, und ganz lieben Publikum, das ganz brav da zugeschaut hat, und die Jury auf alle Fälle. Ich bedanke die Frau Sadia Klepp, dass sie uns diese Gelegenheit angeboten hat, hierher zu sein und uns zu präsentieren als Kosovo. Danke, Sadia.
našeg Ivana. Ivane, dobrodošao direktno iz Srbije ovdje sa svojim proizvodima. Tebe slušaju sad dole u sali, pa evo da nam se kratko predstaviš.
Dobar dan, poštovanje. Meni je drago što sam ovdje vaš gost. Inače dolazim iz Kragujevca, iz Srbije naravno, i bavim se sa ovim kafom u pokretu, sa ovim kombijem iza, verovatno se vidi, ja ne znam sad. I to je to, radim festivale i manifestacije po Srbiji, a ovo mi je prva van Srbije i drago mi što smo bili u kontaktu i što ste mi obezbedili ovdje učešće na ovom prelepnom događaju Dani Balkana.
Dobrodošao Ivane i nadam se da niste došli uzalud. Evo, ja sam probala kafu, garantujem da je kafa dobra.
Ja vam se sviđa?
Perfekt.
Hvala vam puno, dođite posle opet, dovedite još nekog da probaju moje proizvode ovdje.
Evo, Dakle, ovdje pred samim ulazom desno nalazi se prava domaća kafa i ostale
lepa reklama,
vrste kafe.
hvala vam.
Ajde,
Vidimo se,
vidimo.
pozdrav.
Draga moja Balkana, draga moja djeco, dobrodošli u München, dobrodošli na Dane Balkana. Velika je radost za mene uvijek vas pozdraviti ovdje i ja mislim i za naše posjetitelje, posjetioce da je to veliko zadovoljstvo.
So this takes a minute. Okay. So. Liebe Zuschauerinnen und Zuschauer, herzlich willkommen bei den Balkantagen 2021 und zur Podiumsdiskussion der Südosteuropa-Gesellschaft zur Eröffnung der Balkantage. Mein Name ist Christian Hagemann. Und jetzt höre ich gerade den Dolmetscher. Eine Sekunde. Mein Name ist Christian Hagemann. Ich bin der stellvertretende Geschäftsführer der SOG und freue mich, Sie heute als Moderator dieser Veranstaltung begleiten zu dürfen. Es ist inzwischen eine schöne Tradition geworden, dass die SOG mit einer Podiumsdiskussion zu den Münchner Balkantagen beitragen darf. Und auch wenn es sehr schade ist, dass wir dies in diesem Jahr nicht wie üblich in einem festlichen Rahmen einer Veranstaltung tun dürfen, freut es mich doch, dass es dem Team der Balkantage gelungen ist, eine tragfähige digitale Veranstaltung auf die Beine zu stellen, an der wir uns natürlich sehr gerne beteiligen. Dazu Frau Kleppe und ihrem Team meinen Glückwunsch sowie noch einmal herzlichen Dank für die Einladung. Kurz möchte ich noch auf meine Organisation eingehen, die Südosteuropa-Gesellschaft. Wir sind bereits seit 69 Jahren eine Institution in München und in Deutschland für die Beschäftigung mit der Region Südosteuropa, welches wir grob von der Slowakei bis zur Osttürkei definieren, also einen ziemlich großen Raum, den wir hier betrachten. Wir sind eine Mittelorganisation. Wir organisieren Konferenzen, Workshops, Diskussionsveranstaltungen, um Expertise zur Region bereitzustellen. Und unsere 600 Mitglieder sind Expertinnen und Experten in den Bereichen Politik, Wissenschaft, Wirtschaft, Kultur und noch viele mehr in Bezug zur Region. Gleichzeitig fördern wir aber auch den wissenschaftlichen Nachwuchs, der sich mit der Region beschäftigt. Schauen Sie doch einfach mal auf unsere Website oder zum Beispiel in unseren Social-Media-Kanälen nach, um unser Angebot kennenzulernen. Die heutige Diskussion wird in englischer Sprache stattfinden. Für alle diejenigen von Ihnen, die lieber auf Deutsch folgen möchten, bieten wir aber auch eine Simultanübersetzung an. Einige von Ihnen kennen das vielleicht schon. Es gibt unten in Zoom die Funktion Dolmetschen und dort können Sie sich die Sprache auswählen, die Sie gerne benutzen möchten oder in der Sie gerne zuhören möchten. Sie haben jetzt die Möglichkeit zu wechseln, während ich auch bei mir die Sprache wechsle sozusagen. And I will switch to English now for the rest of the event and invite everybody who prefers German to change the audio channel accordingly. So just a few remarks on the technicalities of today's discussion before I introduce our great panel. We're going to discuss for about an hour today, but we will also have time later for questions from the audience. So please use the Q&A function you see below to write us your questions. And my colleague Ivana, who is also here, will collect the questions and introduce them later to the panel. But please write the questions immediately when you have them, so Ivana has enough time to read them all. So if you only write them after the hour when we will introduce them, it will be probably too late. You're also free to comment or like questions that have already been posted, and this will also help us to select the most urgent questions in case we're running out of time. In case you see us just in this moment on the YouTube live stream and you are wondering how to participate, I would like to draw your attention to the Zoom link on the Balkantage website in the general schedule. You can use it to join us here on Zoom and also be able to ask questions, because this will be difficult to take them also from YouTube at the same time. In case time allows for it, we can also have some live questions. So please use the raise your hand function to signal that you would like to be unmuted and join us directly with a question in case you have one. So enough for the technicalities for now. We will discuss the topic of migration of young people from Southeast Europe and especially the Western Balkans tonight. And this is an issue which has gained prominence recently, not only because of the lack of medical staff in many Balkan hospitals due to the emigration to countries like Germany, which caused a lot of friction during the still ongoing pandemic, there are different aspects that make people more alarmed about emigration these days. And these are, for example, that people have stopped coming back after emigrating. So emigration is often not only a temporal phenomenon anymore. Second, many young people leave because they have lost hope in the chance for change in their countries. And third, also well-established people have started leaving, and not only anymore those who were unemployed or unable to make a living in the region. So another very alarming sign. We have also discussed the topic of emigration in the realm of last year's German EU Council presidency in our joint conference project with the German Federal Foreign Office and the Aspen Institute that looked at the causes and effects of migration from the region. So for tonight's panel, I'm very happy that 4 experts agreed to join us who are both very knowledgeable on our debate's topic and at the same time young and thus in a way themselves also affected by the developments we are discussing and can also give us a background on what they or their peers think about these issues. So I would like to introduce you first to Samir Beharic and Exona Bokshi, who were part of a group of young people joined by the Regional Youth Cooperation Office, or RYCO, and the Berlin-based organization Cross Border Factory in the realm of the German EU Council Presidency Conference we organized last year, in which they already supported us. Exona is a youth activist. She's a peacemaker and alumna of the OSCE Dialog Academy for Young Women, an initiative that gathers prominent women from politics, academia, media, and civil society from Belgrade and Pristina. During her youth-related work, she has coordinated a mentorship program within the United Nations Volunteers Framework and authored several policy papers on regional and youth cooperation in the Western Balkans. For the past 2 years, she's been engaged in the project Empowering Youth for a Peaceful, Prosperous and Sustainable Future in Kosovo, funded by the UN Secretary General's Peace Building Fund. Welcome, Exona. Samir Beharic is an award-winning youth activist and a recent global studies graduate from the University of Vienna and Leipzig University. He has completed professional traineeship program with the US Congress in Washington, DC, and the European Parliament in Brussels. Currently, he serves as the board member of the Western Balkans Alumni Association, which is a regional NGO empowering and bringing together young people who return to the region after studies abroad. So immediately working in the area of interest tonight. Samir studied at universities in Austria, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Germany, Italy, and Turkey, thus has a lot of experience abroad he can share with us also tonight. Welcome, Samir.
Thank you very much and good evening, everyone.
I would also like to welcome Dr. Lumnia Yusufi. Lumnia is a postdoctoral scholar at Berlin's Humboldt University and a member of the Scientific Advisory Board of the Southeast Europe Association. She's a trained linguist and currently working on a project financed by the German Ministry of Education, dealing with the influence of immigration and remigration on Kosovo and North Macedonia. She was herself born in North Macedonia, but grew up in Germany, where she also completed her studies. Welcome, Lumnia. Thanks for joining us tonight. And last but surely not least, I'm very glad that Sasha Vasic is today with us. She works as a project manager at the Friedrich Ebert Foundation's Southeast Dialog, which is a regional office for Southeastern Europe of the foundation. Within her portfolio, she mostly deals with youth and social economic justice topics. She holds an MBA degree and has also studied and lived abroad and is now based in Sarajevo. Hello to Sarajevo, Sasha. So again, welcome to our panelists. I'm very happy that you're with us tonight. We will proceed as follows. Just for the audience of now 51 people, as I can see, to know. Sasha will start and will prepare the ground for our debate by presenting us the results on questions related to youth and immigration from the Friedrich Ebert Foundation's youth study conducted in 2019, which is still probably the broadest and most sophisticated study of this kind currently available. So we will get the scientific backdrop and the survey data from Sasha first. And against the backdrop of this study's results, we will then discuss the reasons for emigration from the region and what can actually be done about it. But before we start, and I promise you this is the last but for now, I would like to ask you in the audience a question on emigration from Southeast Europe. And I can do it this way. And I'm wondering what you think, how important emigration is for the development of the Western Balkans. So the question is, do you consider emigration a problem for development in the Balkan countries? Do you think, no, not at all, people have always moved back and forth, it's something we've seen before with the Gastarbeiter, for example? Or do you think it's somewhat a problem, especially losing people in important professions like the health sector hurts the countries, so the middle ground? Or would you say absolutely emigration is among the biggest problems these countries are facing these days? So 3 options, and I can see here that about 50% of the audience have already cast their vote. We will wait a couple of more seconds to give everybody a chance to vote. So we're at 80%, and I would say the last 5 seconds before we stop. And I can show you the results now, and the answers are very clear. Just one person thinks it's not at all a problem. The clear majority of 59% underlines that it's among the biggest problems the countries are facing these days, and 40% would say at least somewhat in special sectors it's a problem. So we already have a big awareness, I would say, in the audience for the urgency of the question, and probably this is also the reason why you joined us tonight. So I will close this, and I would like to invite Sasha now to start with her presentation on the Friedrich Ebert studies result. Sasha, please.
Okay, thank you, Christian. Just let me share the screen. Is this one? Yes. Share. Can you see this?
Yes.
Just a second. Okay, so that's it. So hello everyone. I'm glad to be part of this event tonight. As Christian introduced me, my name is Sasha Vasic. I'm joining you from Sarajevo, from Friedrich Ebert Foundation regional office. And tonight I will tell you more about the results of the youth study that the FES conducted in 2018-2019. To be clear, I'm not the author of the study. I just present the results. The authors are Miran Lavric, Mirna Jusic, and Smiljka Tomanovic. Well, FES Youth Study is a youth research project carried out simultaneously in 10 countries in Southeast Europe. You can see the countries on the screen. So Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, Kosovo, North Macedonia, Montenegro, Romania, Serbia, and Slovenia. The main objective of the survey has been to identify, to describe, and analyze attitudes of the young people and patterns of behavior in contemporary society. The data was collected in 2018. More than 10,000 young people aged from 14 to 29 were included in this survey. A broad range of issues were addressed, including young people's experience and inspirations in different realms of life, such as education, employment, political participation, family relationship, leisure, use of information, communication technology, but also their values, attitudes, and beliefs. Findings are presented in 10 national studies and 1 comprehensive regional study. All the studies you can find in English language. And tonight, since we are talking about mobility and migration, I specified my presentation mostly on those data. So let's start with the first graph. So as you can see in this graph, here is the percentage of young people expressing strong or very strong desire to move to another country for more than 6 months. From these results, we can see that immigration of young people has been especially advanced in the countries that are not part of the European Union. Those countries are Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, Macedonia, Montenegro, and Serbia. Young people from Romania, Bulgaria, Croatia, and Slovenia show the least interest in immigration. In Albania, 43% of young people said that they would leave the country for more than 6 months, while in Romania, that number is only 10%. So we can conclude, we can say that being a part of European Union, having a membership in European Union seems to significantly reduce the motivation of young people to immigrate. Of course that we cannot say, I mean, of course that, becoming an EU state will definitely stop the immigration, but with Europeanization of Western Balkan countries, with improving economic situation, with implementing democratic atmosphere, definitely that will change the pattern of migration in a long run. So the second graph, here we see quite a similar picture. The share of young people who would like to leave their country home for more than 20 years are substantially higher in the countries that have not joined the EU. A majority of youth from Romania, Bulgaria, and Slovenia plan much shorter stay abroad. I have to mention that the long-term immigration plans correlate negatively with one's own and parents' educational attainment. Young people who are outside of the labor market, training and education are more likely to leave for longer than 20 years. And also young people from financial poorer households tend to leave or have desire to leave for a longer period. This is the third graph. Here I will talk about the reasons expressed for moving to another country. The question was, what is the main reason why you would move to another country? The results indicate that the youth from Southeast Europe predominantly want to move for the sake of improving their living standards, which means obtaining a higher salary, improving their employment opportunity. And here we do not see the difference between the EU countries and non-EU countries. So in the whole region, youth of the whole region are leaving due to the economic reasons. Educational reasons are second most important, but with an enormous gap behind economic reasons. And young people who want to move due to educational purposes are less likely to be in nets. Their parents are more likely to be better educated. They're more likely to come from financially better off households. The very small minority of youth who wants to immigrate for cultural reasons, this is mostly a case in Slovenia. Those are people, young people who are coming from households with a greater number of material possessions, are better educated, have parents with a higher level of cultural capital, and come from the urban area. Here, I have to mention one more thing that for me is very interesting and also very important. Surveys show that desire to leave in general may also be understood as an expression of dissatisfaction with young people's perception of the situation at home, rather than any serious plan to emigrate, which means constant and especially exaggerating criticism of the situation in the country, coming from media and policymakers, politicians, leads to more negative perception of the home country, which significantly increase desire within young people to emigrate. So those factors are also, they could be a trigger for young people to leave the country. This graph actually shows us that not everything is so bleak and hopeless. Although the immigration potential might seem high for individual countries, it is very important to note that 45% of respondents in entire sample had an immigration potential to 0, which means that there's still a lot of number of young people who they do not want to leave their homes. They want to stay in their home countries. In this graph, we can see the results from survey which done in period from 2011 to 2015, and those results are compared to results from 2018. And here we can see that the share of youth with no intention to immigrate increased since the last round of survey. And also, as you can see, this affirms our previous finding, saying that the youth from EU countries have less interest in immigration, with exceptions to Slovenia. Slovenia here, for some reason, young people from Slovenia want to leave their country more in 2018 than in 2015. So this graph shows us basically, this is interesting for people coming from Germany. And this is actually, it's showing us that, exception of Bulgaria and Montenegro, most young people listed Germany as their first choice of country to move to. So Germany is their first and their second choice. There are many analyses, many thoughts and explanations why Germany is the most desired country for immigration. Some of them are that young people perceive Germany as a welfare state. In case of Bosnia and Herzegovina, that is connected with the war, because Germany actually accepted a lot of refugees during the war. So young people have their families there. For them, it's easier to move to Germany. But anyhow, the fact is that the Germany is the most desirable place to move to. And the last slide in this presentation shows that young people from Southeast Europe display a high level of readiness to integrate into their future society of choice. This is demonstrated by their readiness to learn the language of their host country, but also by their willingness to be a good and a productive citizen. They do not shun from jobs that are less desired by the local population. So this is all from me for now. Later, maybe in the discussion, I can talk about the policy recommendations, because we also have a few policy recommendations regarding migration and mobility. Maybe to show you the last slide, just to show you the web page where you can find the youth study, both in German and English. And you can also find a policy recommendation, not policy paper, called Closer to the EU, Further from Leaving. So yeah, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sasha, for this very concise and brief overview of the most important results of the study. And I would like to give the question directly back to our panel. And I'm wondering, when you hear these results, what do you think? Do they match your impression of the situation on the ground when it comes to the motivation to leave? What would you add or further comment on these results? And what are the most important reasons you hear from your peers why young people turn their backs on their home countries? And what is your personal experience on this? And I would like to remind the audience that you can put questions in the Q&A slot while we're discussing, so we can answer them later. And I would like to give the floor first to Exona on this question. How would you comment these findings?
Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me good, and I don't have any problems with internet. Good. First of all, thank you for organizing the event. I think it's extremely important for us young people living in the region to try to improve always for better the current situation. And thank you to Sasha and the team for working on this study. It is really important for us working in such problems to have data and numbers on trying to tackle the issue. There have been, of course, everything. I agree everything that was shared from Sasha in the report. Of course, the reasons why young people are leaving the region are economic reasons, political situation in the region, and then the lack of quality of education. So I think the reasons why or the reasons why young people are leaving the region are in different angles, and then we can discuss each of them and try to find our takeouts on that. For me, it is it is really of course this situation what we see in the ground as well. It is as well what Sasha was saying. Young people in the region want to leave the country because they don't see opportunities here, opportunities on education and opportunities on having a better job. Somehow they always think that if they move abroad, their quality of life will change. And what they are actually asking is to have a better quality in their lives. I think what we should try as well to see is that this is as well a development problem. It's not just a demographic problem, but it is as well a development program. We are losing, the region is getting depopulated. We are losing young people. We are losing workforce in the region. And then somehow this is as well causing us problems on getting developed. I think if we try to tackle the migration as a problem, it will be a huge task to take on, which will take a longer time to get to resolve. But I think what we should try to do is to try to work with the indicators why these young people are leaving the country. And as well, I think we need to focus a bit on young people who are actually coming back in the region. I know that there are cases that young people are moving abroad, studying there, but then they are willing to come back. So I think we should try to focus on that as well, and not only for young people who are leaving. Yes, migration, it is a huge problem. I was trying to think which one of those answers I would select in the survey, and I think I would agree even with that one answer from it is not a problem, because somehow I always think that migration, it was always present, and if we're trying to stop migration, it will be impossible. So I think all of the answers over there are somehow answers available to the situation, but I think we should try to take it one by one and see what we can do. I will stop here, and then maybe we can discuss and elaborate more. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this. I think already very interesting points, especially the one related to the development question, because if you consider that you're losing workforce, but still trying to attract foreign direct investment, companies creating jobs, if these companies don't find the workforce in the countries, they will not build their plants there and create the jobs. So this is definitely a huge problem that could lead to some kind of vicious circle, probably, if you have so much emigration. Many other issues we will come back on later too, but I would like to hear Sami's opinion first. How would you comment on the results?
Schönen guten Abend an alle. Ich freue mich, dass ich heute hier bin. Good evening to everyone. I'm really glad that I have been invited today here. I have studied in Germany for a year and a half, so 3 semesters basically. And last year in 2019, I came back. I was studying at the University of Leipzig as a scholarship holder of Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, which I am very grateful for my master's program in education, a scholarship. And this is exactly one of the reasons that young people from the whole region, including Bosnia and Herzegovina, see Germany as their promised land. Because in my personal case, it was Germany and the EU that invested more money in my education than my own home country. Currently, I'm here back in I'd say in my hometown where I was born and grew up, trying to work on the ground. And I will try to share my experience and the experience of my peers from the Western Balkans Alumni Association, young people who have studied abroad, as well in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and then decided to return to their home countries, whether it's Bosnia or another one of the rest of the Western Balkan 6 countries. And I think, Christian, you asked a bit like a loaded question. You said, why do young people turn their back on their home countries? I think it's that in a lot of cases, home countries, they turn back on their young people. And this is something that we need to take care of, especially when we're speaking about young people who are seeking to have just nothing but just an opportunity to come back from their studies, to try to study and to try to contribute back to their home countries. In a lot of cases, we have seen situations where young, highly educated young people with their MAs gained abroad, with their PhDs gained abroad, coming back to their home country without even a chance to work. Usually in public sector, it's the problem. Other public institutions within the Western Balkans, those young people who come back full of energy, full of motivation to contribute, because let's be frank, 99.9% of those young people who go to study abroad go and study abroad for the purpose of returning and contributing to their home country. And I'm really, really happy to share with all of you that this spring, Western Balkans Alumni Association will be conducting a tracer study. First, one-of-a-kind study of all foreign scholarship holders from the Western Balkans, with a name to see where they are. Do they plan to come back? If they came back, do they plan to stay in the region for how long? And we want to see the attitude of those young people who returned, or who are planning to return, or who are not even planning to return at all. Second reason why young people do not return, or why they leave in first place, is exactly the lack of opportunities. The lack of opportunities connected to injustice. Currently, countries in the Western Balkans have this huge burden of youth unemployment. Youth unemployment that only offers a small minority of people in the region to get an actual job. And then there is another danger of corruption. Corruption, nepotism, that's even taking away chance for the best and the brightest to get employed, to stay and to work within the Western Balkans region. And that is one of the big reasons why highly educated young people, especially those who gain their diplomas abroad, decide, even after trying, not to stay. And it's not just a problem if someone from abroad comes back, stays a bit here, they see they can't get a job, and then they leave. It's just half of a problem. Even a bigger problem than that is that this young person who comes back and who leaves is a red flag, represents a red flag for every one of each of those young people who are currently studying abroad and thinking of returning. So in a lot of cases, they say, okay, if someone decided to return, didn't get a job, and moved away again, why should I return in first place? So it's, I think, this nexus of lack of opportunity, corruption, injustice, but as well as bad education. I will finish with the last thing which we usually neglect, and which is a big elephant in the room, especially in the last couple of years. And this is in a way that's something that not just affects young people, highly educated people, but everyone. It's environment. It's polluted air. It's polluted water. And this has been issue forever. However, this issue is being currently in the last couple of years, addressed. Probably the awareness has been raised among activists, environmental activists. We have thousands of people in the region dying only from polluted air, hundreds of them getting sick, including children. And I think this is also a very, very important aspect when it comes to young people, or people in general, planning their families and planning to stay long term in the Western Balkans, region. I think I will stop here, and I look forward to our further discussion.
Thank you, Samir. This is a very important point related to these environmental problems, which is definitely not a luxury problem, whereas I think 3 Western Balkan capitals are among the 10 most polluted capital cities in the world. If you ever go there during winter times, you know how difficult it is to breathe because the air becomes so thick. This, I think, is also related to the question, what do people actually understand when they make their cross at standard of living in the survey? Is it really just the economic reasons, or is it also these other effects? We will also have a closer look on later here. But first, I would like to give the word to Lumnia and maybe also pick up something Sasha mentioned in her presentation when she said that somehow young people get a too negative perception of their home countries from the media and from these very negatively focused debates. But there's, of course, also a different side of this coin when you would say they have a very negative perception of their home countries, but probably also a very over-positive perception of EU countries and of a very positive, optimistic idea of what will expect them there. As I know this is also an area of your expertise, Lumnia. Could you please give us your insights or your comments on the survey results, and probably also focus especially on this point?
Ja, ich spreche auf Deutsch. Ich habe im Zuge des laufenden Projektes mir die Länder Kosovo und Nordmazedonien angeschaut, inwiefern die Pendelmigration und wenn überhaupt vorhanden ist, ein Hauch von Remigration einen Einfluss in diesen Ländern haben. Ein Punkt davon ist selbstverständlich auch, inwiefern Pendelmigration und Remigration Emigration fördert. Also es ist so jetzt widersprüchlich, aber ich sehe dort halt sehr viele Parallelen. Der Punkt von Samir, der sagte, diese Wahrnehmung überhaupt und dass die Leute hören, die wenigen, die es versucht haben, zurückzugehen, negative Erfahrungen hatten, warum soll ich es machen? Die sind nicht wenige. Es gibt wirklich immer wieder, gerade von meinem Jahrgang, das heißt, ich bin in Deutschland aufgewachsen, bin ein Gastarbeiterkind, ein sogenanntes. Und gerade diese Generation, die jetzt wirklich sehr gut gebildet ist hier, ich spreche jetzt in Deutschland, aber man kann auch in der Schweiz und Österreich und woanders gucken, die sagen, ich habe den Willen mehr als mein Vater, der nichts gelernt hatte und als billige Arbeitskraft von Deutschland eingeworben wurde. Ich würde gerne zurückgehen, auch im Hinblick der Rolle einer Minderheit hier in Deutschland, eine Rolle, die das Leben hier gerade dem beruflichen Erfolg auch nicht einfach macht. Und es ist nicht nur eine Passivität. Für mich klingt das so, ach, wir sind nicht fähig, was zu tun. Es gibt ja so viele Probleme, die Wirtschaft, die Arbeitslosigkeit, Klimawandel, Umweltverschmutzung und so weiter. Nein, meiner Meinung nach und auch meine Erfahrung, aber auch jetzt die ersten Ergebnisse meines Projektes zeigen, dass Remigranten, Emigranten, egal welcher Generation, ob es jetzt die frisch ausgewanderte Ärztin von vor 2 Jahren ist oder ich, die hier teilweise aufgewachsen ist, einfach wirklich auch bekämpft werden in den Versuchen, zurückzugehen. Es gibt die unfassbar vielfältigsten Gründe, wie diese Rückkehrmöglichkeiten bekämpft werden, wo man einfach nicht sieht. Es ist systematisch, natürlich ist es sehr politisch motiviert. Ich mache jetzt nicht jeden einzelnen einfachen Menschen, der irgendwo arbeitet, dafür verantwortlich. Es ist aber ein strukturelles Problem. Ich beobachte seit ich mit meiner Promotion fertig bin, alle möglichen Ausschreibungen. Es fängt damit an, dass es heißt, die Staatsangehörigkeit des Landes, das die meisten wohl haben, aber einige eben nicht. Dann fängt es damit an, dass es heißt, Lebensmittelpunkt hier. Ja, man kann es verlagern, aber doch nicht bei der Bewerbung. Das sind dann formale Voraussetzungen, die allein die Bewerbung schon unmöglich machen, geschweige denn Kontakte, Möglichkeiten zu haben, Stichpunkt Korruption, Vetternwirtschaft und Korruption, an die kommt man erst gar nicht ran, jemand wie ich hier in Deutschland. Und ich spreche wirklich aus Erfahrung, weil von 2009, seit Abschluss meiner Promotion bis 2014, als ich dann von München nach Berlin ging mit meinem Projekt, habe ich es versucht, in allen 3 albanischsprachigen Ländern, also albanischsprachig meine ich damit auch Nordmazedonien, aus einem Grund, weil ich von Haus aus Albanologin bin. Es hat nirgends funktioniert, nirgends. Auch mit einer Humboldt-Stipendium, das wirklich das Normalste von der Welt ist, Mobilität auf dem Bereich der Akademiker, so wie ich, weil ich Albanologie habe und mir gut getan hätte, auch in den Mutterländern meines Faches eine Weile zu sein. Auch das war nicht möglich, weil ich einfach wirklich ohne Geld, ich komme mit meinem Geld, ich hätte einfach nur eine Bestätigung gebraucht, dass mich die jeweilige Uni übernimmt. Auch das habe ich nicht bekommen. Und ich sehe dann nicht nur Passivität, sondern einfach aktive Bekämpfung von speziellen Gruppen. Wenn ich jetzt sagen würde, ungebildete Menschen wäre nicht möglich, zurückzugehen in Massen, weil es einfach keine Arbeit gibt. Und die gebildeten Menschen sind einfach nicht gewollt. Ich kann jetzt nur interpretieren und mir ausdenken, weil wir eigentlich für dieses politische System, weshalb viele junge Leute ja auch weggehen, zu gefährlich werden würden und sagen würden, nee, da mache ich nicht mit. Oder ich brauche einen verantwortungsvollen Posten, um hier mal wirklich was zu bewegen, weshalb ich geholt werde. Ich habe eine Gastdozentur an der Uni Tetovo gehabt und man hat mir dort einen Institutsleiterposten angeboten. Und als ich fragte, was meine Aufgaben wären, hieß es, du hast überhaupt nichts zu tun, du hast überhaupt nichts zu tun. Als ich dann erfuhr, dass die dann mehr Leute aus dem Ausland, vor allem mit einem Doktortitel benötigt haben, weil das Institut, wo ich anfangen sollte, niemand mit einem Doktortitel hatten. Und nur als Deko möchte ja eigentlich keiner hin, weil es hat ja jeder hier eine Arbeit. Ich sage mir dann, wenn ich aus diesem Engagement und diesem Enthusiasmus heraus und Motivation zu sagen, ich will in dem Land, wo ich geboren bin, ja nicht aufgewachsen, aber es verbindet mich trotzdem etwas damit, etwas bewegen, auch wenn ich dafür nicht so viel Geld bekomme, dann möchte ich auch diese Möglichkeiten erhalten. Also es ist für mich wirklich, was ich beobachte und auch in dem Projekt, speziell für das Aspen-Institut und Südosteuropa-Gesellschaft, in der Umfrage, die ich durchgeführt habe, ich habe die jetzt nicht gezählt, dabei sind wirklich zig Stereotypen, wie ein Emigrant oder Pendelmigrant ist. Und das spielt keine Rolle, ob es jetzt mein Vater ist, der emigriert ist und damals unqualifizierte Arbeitskraft war, oder jemand wie ich, der jetzt halt eine Hochschulausbildung hat. Es spielt keine Rolle. Ein Emigrant ist eine billige Arbeitskraft, der verdient wahnsinnig viel Geld. Und da kommen wir jetzt zu dem positiven Image, den du, Christian, vorhin angesprochen hast. Die jungen Leute bekommen durch diese Stereotypen, es ist wirklich so ein Teufelskreis entstanden, aus dem ich auch nicht weiß momentan, wie man herauskommt. Es gibt ein positives Image über die Länder, wo man ist. Das heißt, unsere Emigranten sind unqualifiziert, verdienen einen Haufen Geld, bekommen das tolle Leben dort geschenkt und wer es nicht bekommt, ist selber schuld, weil er nicht in der Lage war, diese Chancen zu nutzen, die wir hier nicht haben. Also gehen wir dorthin. Das heißt, dieses Image der westlichen Länder ist sehr stark geprägt von den Pendelmigranten. Die wenigen Remigranten, hat Exona gesprochen. Das Problem ist auch dass es keine Statistiken gibt, wer geht, wer kommt wann, warum zurück. Also es gibt keine Statistiken darüber, weil die Politik gerade in Mazedonien, das kann ich dann wirklich betonen, in anderen Ländern mag mich jemand korrigieren, oder auch in Regionen innerhalb eines Landes, wo die ethnische Zusammensetzung sehr heterogen ist, gerade da versucht man dann halt die eigene Ethnie in der Mehrheit zu behalten und zu sagen, ja, nee, wir haben eigentlich keine Auswanderung. Und aus diesem Grund, finde ich, sieht man das auch nicht im Wahlkampagnenprogramm. Wenn Sie sich mal die Wahlen anschauen, welche Partei jetzt bis auf Vedvendosja in Kosovo, die jetzt kürzlich wieder die Wahlen gewonnen hat, dass sich im Parteiprogramm festgeschrieben hat, wir wollen Auswanderung, keine Ahnung, ob Sie ernst meinen, aber es steht schon mal da, wir wollen Auswanderung bekämpfen, wir wollen Rückwanderung fördern. Ich habe das in keinem anderen Land und in keiner Partei gesehen, dass sie sagen, Leute, hier haben wir jetzt ein Problem, das müssen wir bekämpfen, die jungen Leute rennen uns weg, was sollen wir machen? Weil die sind als Wähler da und irgendwo als Wirtschaftskraft auch wenn die vielleicht, weil sie ungesteuert ist und die politischen Maßnahmen fehlen, wie man das dann gut kanalisiert. Es ist trotzdem irgendwie Geld da. Ob es jetzt statt Sozialhilfe in direkter Unterstützung der Verwandten oder als Touristen, man hat das jetzt irgendwie in der Pandemie gesehen, wie schnell man die Grenzen öffnete, unabhängig der Infektionslage, einfach wenn die Wirtschaft am Boden lag und gesagt hat, so, jetzt brauchen wir die Migranten wieder, die müssen wieder zurück. In Kosovo ist es total eskaliert, um Weihnachten rum. Es gab auch eine Prügelei zwischen einem Emigranten, Pendelmigranten und einem Journalisten, der pauschal die ganzen Emigranten beschimpft hat und sagen, ja, jetzt kommen die und bringen das Virus. Ja, mit dem Virus brachten sie aus das Geld, was sie nötig hatten, deshalb öffneten sie die Grenzen. Also es ist auch eine riesen Politikmache mit der Emigration und mit der Pendelmigration geworden. In Kosovo hieß es ja, wir brauchen die Pendelmigranten, wir haben keine Industrie. Ich musste wirklich schmunzeln, aber es ist wirklich einfach, ich fall vom Glauben ab. Jedes Mal, wenn ich Nachrichten aus Südosteuropa oder westlicher Balkan gucke, ich fall vom Glauben ab, wie sie denken, Remigration zu fördern und Emigration zu bekämpfen.
Ja.
Entschuldigung, ich bin jetzt ein bisschen emotional geworden, weil ein Stück auch meine Erfahrung ist und ich finde keine Erklärung, die nur alleine zieht, weshalb wir diesen Zustand haben, den wir haben.
Thank you for this, Lumnia. I think this is a very crucial part that you stressed the soft factors blocking remigration somehow. Actually, they are not so soft at all, but that it's not only related to that people do not want to return, but it's also related to that they don't get the chances, as was already mentioned before, but also that the attitude towards the people's returning is probably also sometimes difficult, and they don't really feel so welcome after all, even if they are motivated to come back. And also a very different point, do the political actors really wish this critical mass returning to their countries, because they have also made probably different experiences of how democracy can work in other places and might demand the same thing in their country. So this also as another interesting point I got from your remarks. Probably we stick with this question of the factors beyond the economic factors that matter. And I would like to ask Exona on the one argument heard often in discussions is that young people do not only leave because of jobs, but because of the political situation and also factors beyond. So how does politics make life more difficult for young people and also makes them leave and probably also not return? What do you think?
Or how can they make it easier? Probably. Of course, I mean, of course, the reasons why young people are leaving are not just economic reasons, are as well a lot related to the political situation that we have in the region. The lack of good governance, the lack of having the number of the huge number of corruption that we have in the region, the rule of law. So all of these are related to a political situation. What I think we need in the region, it is somehow a renewal of the political situation that we have in the region. In Kosovo, we had elections 2 weeks ago, which one of the parties who was never in the political governing in the political system in Kosovo, they won the majority of votes. And what is extremely interesting to see there, it is that majority of votes that they got was from young people and women. So these were the majority of voters that they have. And what this tells us is that young people in the region, they want to see a change. They have seen the elites and this system going on for too long. Sometimes we are asking the rule of law. Sometimes we are asking development. We are asking more sustainability. But to whom we are asking all these requests? To whom are we addressing? To a political system that actually had brought the situation somehow here in the current situation. So I think what young people want to see, and not just young people, citizens living in the region, what they want to see is a renewal of the political image in the region. I had a case in my family. My sister was a first-time voter this year. She is 18 and she was able to vote for the first time. And it was extremely funny because she said that she sees the same people like for years. I mean, my dad, my mom, my sister, we have always seen the same people in the political situation, for example, in Kosovo. So what young people, new generations, what they want to see something different. Of course, it plays a huge role, but I think what we need as well to understand is that somehow the issues that young people had in the region, they didn't seem that they are voiced in a political sphere. Issues that they had, they were never really discussed. They were somehow always technical. Somehow no one was really communicating what really these young people want. I mean, of course, it's education. Of course, it's education. It's good jobs. But even the reforms that were made were not really and properly communicated to these people. So I think this plays a huge role on the situation that we have right now. So this is a bit my answer to that, and we can discuss further on the topic.
Thank you, Ixona. I think this is also another point added to the question: what is the problem? We have corruption and nationalism on the one hand, but also the simple fact, as you stated, that the political system is just bad in taking up the demands of young people and showing that they take their interests seriously. So I think this is something else from the other reasons that we have already heard. I see that there are a lot of questions from the audience coming up, and Ivana is already probably feeling the heat of summarizing all of these. I give you a little more time to put your questions before we start these. And I saw one comment which was formulated as a question, but probably it's rather a comment, as I understood. Which Western Balkan country really has an open labor market, like a transparent labor market? And this is a question I would like to put to Samir to comment a bit more on this situation, on the region's labor markets, because we have a strange observation that on the one hand, the countries are lacking workforce in the region, but on the other hand, young people cannot really find jobs to make a living. So what is actually the problem behind this? What do you think?
I think there is job for those who are fit in terms of party membership. There are jobs for those who are fit not in terms of education and skills, but in terms of party allyship. And this party politics that plays in a role also when it comes to employment is something that when we speak about there are sometimes jobs. Job market is lacking certain types of professions. Currently, in the last couple of years, we have seen that this deals mostly with medical staff. But this is exactly the staff that the Western Balkan countries are sending towards the EU. Bosnia and Herzegovina only spends every year 50 million euros in educating health professionals that usually migrate. In one part of the country, in the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, in its entity, average age of medical doctors is 50 plus. That's huge. During the pandemic, a lot of doctors came back from the pensions, from their retirement, just in order to work and to help the sector. I mean, but once when they are in the job market, like students, young people who are there, they are confronted generally with just like too few job opportunities. And I will again remind you that we in the region have one of the world's highest youth unemployment rates for young people between 15 and 24 years old. And this ranges between 17% in Montenegro to 55% in Kosovo. And these are huge numbers. And then these young people are again confronted with this unfair competition because, you know, the job market is generally small and it favors those people with good political links, as I emphasized. And then those students, those highly educated young people that get a job typically earn less than what they would earn in the EU. And sometimes they see that even while working, while you know, delivering student jobs while studying abroad. It's not only this part of salaries. It's also very much, you know, something that affects everyone. Again, people will come to bad health sector regardless of how much they earn. They will enter a bad tram in Sarajevo regardless of how much they earn. And in that sense, there are certain issues and certain problems that we do see that affect everyone, regardless of how much people earn and how much they tend to work on the ground. And then what I think when it comes to education is that instead of focusing on the quality of education, we focus, or the system focuses on, you know, focusing too much on this nationalistic sense of divisions. Currently in Bosnia and Herzegovina, instead of, you know, bringing the best of the best teachers, offering children the best possible education that will equip them for the job market, there is a huge missing link between the educational sector and job market. You know, what we should be producing in order for people to basically work, to go in the job market. Instead, often we have people who are focusing, you know, on nationalism. Therefore, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have one of the last cases of ethnic segregation in Europe. Currently, we do have 55 segregated schools, ethnically segregated schools, so-called two schools under one roof, where Bosniaks attend separate classes than their Croat peers. It happens to be that I attended one of such schools in the city of Jajce, and just 3 years ago, politicians, guess what? They tried to segregate an additionally 2 integrated high schools in the city of Jajce, and young people stood up against this, you know, this attempt, and prevented politicians from segregating yet another school in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So I really do hope that young generation will stand against those politicians and policies that are chasing them away and that have been chasing them away for the past 25 years. But I do not think that young people per se are the solution for any of the countries in the Western Balkans, because Western Balkans does not need young politicians and new politicians. It needs new policies, progressive policies, something that I wish that all these, you know, pre-election promises will be fulfilled. But what we have seen, for example, in Kosovo recently and with the elections, and I'm really, really glad that just yesterday I have seen new promises, post-election promises by Albin Kurti, focusing exactly on young people's education, and especially on those young people who studied abroad, who stayed abroad, and focusing on diaspora, which is a big resource that big chunk of our society hasn't used yet.
Thank you, Samir. many interesting and important points. I think the stress on the what could probably be called the wrong focus on what kind of reform education needs is very interesting. That it's not like there's nothing happening, but probably the emphasis is on the wrong things. And also an interesting point that we did not touch upon so far is on standard of living. Also, the public services come into account, and this is not only the salary you get, but also the environment you're living in, and probably you're also raising your children in that supports your sentiment of if you want to stay or want to leave. Lumnir, I noted a question that you have answered, but probably you can come back a little bit on this. I was wondering, drawing on the paper you wrote about the diaspora's ambivalent role for the region, you say that the diaspora is somehow appreciated as a sort of remittances, thus the money sent back, but at the same time criticized for turning their backs on their countries, making it often difficult to return. So could you explain a bit how this puts the emigrants, and especially young people, into a difficult position and makes it more difficult for them to return? And I would like to add to this a question put from the audience, from Evelyn Reuter, who wrote, what do you think, how long people would have to come back to be eventually accepted and to be able to make a change in the region if they want to return, and probably have enough patience to stay a bit longer and wait? What do you think?
Also zu der ersten Frage, inwiefern dieser finanzielle Einfluss oder finanzielle Abhängigkeit halt eine Rolle spielt und was es bewirkt. Es ist schwierig zu sagen, weil diese Rücküberweisungen, die werden familiär getätigt. Das bedeutet, es sind enge Familienangehörige, die man zumindest temporell versucht zu unterstützen, sei es jetzt für ein Studium oder ältere Menschen, die Eltern in den Lebensabend. Es ist ja nicht so, dass jemand weggeschickt wird und das ganze Leben lang für irgendjemanden aus der Familie arbeitet. Gleichzeitig stellt das halt ein großes Problem für die Staaten dar, weil sie halt dadurch schon irgendwo eine finanzielle Kraft haben, aber es ist halt eine nicht vorhersehbare. Es ist etwas, was sie nicht in ihren Händen haben. Böse Zungen würden meinen, um das zu veruntreuen durch Korruption, aber ich würde das Positive darin sehen, man kann damit halt in nichts investieren, in keine Verbesserung des Systems. Was ich aber als Gegenargument bringen würde, ist, dass diese finanzielle Rücküberweisungen auch einen außerfamiliären Faktor haben, weil Remigranten in meinen Augen, das habe ich dann auch so in meiner Studie im letzten Sommer auch bezeichnet, eine Art Massentourismus darstellen, und diese Länder, die Westbalkanländer, haben bis heute sich keine Gedanken darüber gemacht, wie kann ich diesen Massentourismus in etwas Profitables für das System, für das Kollektiv, für die Allgemeinheit umwandeln. Natürlich ist es eine Überforderung. Ich meine, Mallorca kann ein Lied davon singen, was es bedeutet, von deutschen Touristen im Sommer überrannt zu werden. Aber es gibt Länder, zum Beispiel Albanien jetzt von den Westbalkanländern oder Kroatien, das nicht mehr dazu gezählt wird, weil es in der EU ist, dass eben Methoden haben, wie man halt mit dem Tourismus umgeht und wie man davon einen positiven Faktor herausziehen kann. Sie sehen diese Migranten halt nicht so, weil, und da komme ich zu dem anderen Punkt, sie immer noch als Bestandteil der eigenen Nation insbesondere, nicht unbedingt der Gesellschaft, ich würde dann einen Unterschied machen, betrachtet werden. Und natürlich sind sie keine Touristen. Also ist dann die Kritik, ihr investiert falsch, ihr baut Häuser, die leer stehen, ihr organisiert Feiern, die uns umbringen und so weiter und so fort. Dass aber ganze Sektoren davon abhängen und ganze Sektoren sich dadurch auch stabilisiert haben wirtschaftlich, das will irgendwie eben so nicht fast niemand sehen. Also zumindest kenne ich niemanden, der das so sieht. auch familiär, wenn ich das jetzt runterbrechen würde auf den privaten Sektor, ist es eine Unterstützung indirekt des Staates, weil ich dadurch halt, habe ich am Anfang gesagt, auch diese Sozialhilfe mir irgendwo sparen kann, weil es irgendwo jemanden im Ausland geben wird. Auch die hoffnungslosesten Fällen, also die ganz hoffnungslos im Sinne von wirtschaftlich sehr schlechten Fällen, die keine Kontakte im Ausland haben, wird heute über die sozialen Medien mobil gemacht im Ausland und dann wird wirklich in wenigen Wochen mal ein Haus auf die Beine gestellt, weil es dann von überall Spenden kommen. Und das wird halt politisch nicht gewürdigt und vor allem macht man sich keine Gedanken, wie kann ich das umwandeln. Das Zweite, die Frage von Evelyn Reuter ist, wie lange müsste man dort leben? Ich habe in meiner letzten Studie die Pendelmigranten und Remigranten als die neue Minderheit auf dem Balkan bezeichnet. Und ich finde einmal in diese Minderheit drin und niemals raus. Ich finde nicht, dass man das ablegen kann, weil die Leute wissen, dass man im Ausland gelebt hat und dass da immer der Vorwurf kommt und kommen wird, wenn man eine Kritik äußert, ach, erzähl du nicht, wie es im Ausland war oder warum bist du nicht im Ausland geblieben, warum kommst du hierher? Also es ist eine Diskussion, die niemals auf Augenhöhe passiert, weil immer einem Arroganz unterstellt wird und die kommt vielleicht auch, das kommt ja nicht von ungefähr, aber es ist ja nicht potenziell bei jedem da. Es ist wahnsinnig schwierig, auch die Frage, ich könnte die gleiche Frage für Deutschland stellen, wann werde ich als Gastarbeiterkind in Deutschland als gleichwertiges Mitglied dieser Gesellschaft betrachtet werden? Ich habe keine Antwort darauf gefunden, weil ich finde eben nicht, dass es mit den Jahren und mit den Kenntnissen und mit den Qualitäten im Job zu tun hat. Und das Gleiche würde ich vermuten, auch für die Herkunftsländer. Und die Stereotypen, die sind wirklich, man kann sie identisch gleichsetzen. Sei es die Sprache, die einem unterstellt wird, wie oft meine Sprache, mein Albanisch, das halt mein Job ist, kommentiert wurde und kritisiert wurde, weil es angeblich falsch war, wirklich immer mit dem Gedanken heraus in Konferenzen, weil dahinter halt Universität Berlin steht und nichts anderes. Ist mal ein albanischer Name, der halt in Deutschland dann zum Verhängnis wird.
Thank you for this. Very interesting insight on the investments coming from abroad, which are criticized for going into the wrong direction, which is probably in a way true sometimes, but I find it interesting that you stress that these investments are also keeping some sectors alive, because there wouldn't be finance for this in other ways, and especially covering social policies, which I think is a very good point. And probably also interesting for the audience, I like very much this comparison, asking the other way around, how long do you need to be fully accepted as a German citizen and allowed to criticize things here, which probably differs a lot between the people you meet and how their idea is about when you actually become a citizen. But I think you will probably have this also a lot here, that that the same stereotypes are expecting you in these issues. So before we continue, we should now focus on the questions from the audience, and we still got about 20 minutes left, so this gives us a time to look, and I would like to ask Ivana whether she has had enough time to look through the whole lot of questions we got, and if she can introduce some of these into the discussion. Ivana, please.
Thank you, Christian. Yes, we had a vivid discussion here and a lot of questions. So one question that hasn't been addressed by now is, what is the level of awareness of climate change among young people in the Balkans, and are the statistics on this as a reason for migration? And what's the impact of massive immigration on the government's regimes? Is it a concern for them, or are they happy to see these contents leave, reducing political pressure on them? Then I have two questions addressed to Sasha. Does the study also include young people who want to leave their country for a few years and then come back, for example, to buy a house and work again in their home country? And another question, can you really draw the conclusion from the FES survey that an EU membership reduces the motivation, desire to emigrate? Or could an explanation for the statistics also be that at the time of the survey, more people from the shown EU countries had emigrated already because it was possible for them? To put it differently, did you have a look at the additional data about how attitudes and the number of emigrants have changed over the last 15 to 20 years? And I have a question addressed to Exona. Do you know some surveys on the people who returned to Western Balkan 6 countries that are comparable with those conducted by FES? Yes. This would be the first round.
Thank you for this. I think we probably start with Sasha, and I think this is a very interesting and thought-provoking point. So if you look at the EU countries, probably everybody who wanted to leave has already left, so there's nobody able to answer anymore that they want to leave. Is that possible?
No, I just want to say that if we come back to one of the graphs that I actually showed, period of desired state abroad, that's to answer the question, the first question that was directed to me. So from the graph, you can see that 58% of young people in Bosnia and Herzegovina want to live for more than 20 years, while in Bulgaria, it's 17%. So I actually, the second question is more directed to the researchers, to the authors of the study. I'm not really sure if they had another, look at another data from around the period when the EU countries, actually Croatia, Bulgaria, and Romania became EU countries. But from the data that we collected in the youth study, that's definitely, but not just in the migration, it's a big difference between the countries that are part of EU and the Western Balkan 6 countries in a lot of different segments, in the corruption, perception of the corruption, in the education, employment. So you can always draw that difference.
Okay. I think this is the question on the returnees is especially a very interesting one, because often in political debates, what you hear for EU enlargement, for example, that it is a critical issue because voters are critical on this because of migration. But if you say that EU enlargement would actually reduce migration, this would be a very interesting point to discuss when you say it is not really that the chance of mobility increases migration, but rather that the possibility that you can be mobile also means that you can choose not to be, because you don't have to do this at a special point. You can still have this chance in the future to do so. Okay. Exona, I think the other one was for you. Are you aware of any studies on returnees in Kosovo?
Yes, there is some probably researchers that sorry, I don't know who addressed this question, but they can. I was reading a research study made by UNDP and UNFPA office in Serbia. They were working a lot in depopulation of the citizens, and they were targeting this main issue. But what I as well would like to propose to the one who addressed this question, together with Samir and 10 other young people coming from the Western Balkans, last year, in cooperation with Raiko and Cross Border Factory, we have published a policy paper which address the migration issues and the depopulation that is happening in the Western Balkans. This group of young people from the Western Balkans, what we did was we were doing a research, and we came up with some concrete ideas on how we can actually target these problems and came up with solutions. So I would be fully happy to share this link, and I think this might be useful as well to some data and some ideas. But the one I was able to read as well, the study that FES did, and they as well come with really concrete ideas and about the returnees in the region. So these are all the suggestions that I have right now, which I think can give a lot of answers to the questions.
Thank you for this, and I just posted the link for the publication we launched last week.
You.
A joint publication together with the Aspen Institute Germany, and there you find both the publication of Exona Samia and others, and publication by Lumnia, and also by other scholars focusing on the issue from our conference last year. Ivana, at this point, are there any further questions from the audience we could include here?
Yes, best practice examples of young people who remained in the country or those who re-immigrated. How is it perhaps communicated in media, TV, etc.? And connected to that, are there any attempts of good? No. I lost the question, I'm sorry. How do you assess the role of startups in the region, such as Rimac in Croatia, or students' projects turning into startups, example in the IT sector? Can they change the economic situation for the better, or are they just exceptions?
Okay, so two questions probably for Samia and Lumnia then. And probably if one of you knows about this, I think there's also from the German Development Agency, GIZ, this DMAC centers which consult on remigration. If you have any knowledge on this, how successful this is or how this works, you could probably include this into your answer. So the question is best practice examples of remigrants. Are they remigrants? Are they promoted? On the basis of what Lumnia said so far, I would expect probably not, but what is maybe from some sides made use of this experience, and is anybody helping to spread the word on successful cases? Samia.
Well, I don't think we can here speak about a system, systemic successful cases, unfortunately. I mean, what we can speak, at least me from my perspective, what we can speak are, successful individual cases. And there are successful individual cases, especially those are in the area of private enterprise, because unfortunately, I will underline it again, the public system and public institutions are not that much open for people coming from abroad, especially because they see them as a threat, as competitors in a way, be it in educational sector where they will have back, young people with, strong degrees who publish in foreign languages. And I did have a friend, and this is really a sad story with a happy ending in the end, actually, who did a joint bachelor's degree, joint master's degree abroad, joint PhD through Erasmus, through joint Erasmus Mundus doctorate program, speaks 7 languages, and decided to return. And people thought he's crazy. And then we do have, this notion of young people when they come back, the local environment thinks either they're crazy or they're losers because they, quote unquote, didn't succeed abroad. Because, why are you returning? You wouldn't even return if you had succeeded abroad. This is some kind of a stigma that the societies in the Balkans, have. I mean, if you were worth something, you would have stayed and you wouldn't have returned in the first place. And then additionally, he did his PhD in political science. Can you imagine? So what kind of PhD is that? So those were the questions that he got asked. And then he went to the Faculty of Political Science at the University of Sarajevo. And he has probably published more in foreign languages than some, I mean, I'm sorry to say that, I graduated from that university, I did my bachelor's there, than some of the professors there have read. And he experienced such mental torture there. I mean, he was almost thrown out of the dean's, office, and he was told, go to the Turks, meaning to the Turkish private universities in Sarajevo, which he did in the end, and he got a job there, which he wasn't in the end happy. And then in the end, currently he's working for the Bosnian Foreign Office, Bosnian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is in a way good. It's excellent. I'm glad he's working there, and he's a positive example. Now, I will not be going into, negative sides of working for the Bosnian Foreign Ministry that he shared. However, I think if we could have more of these, even at least individual success stories, I mean, that would also boost, the motivation of young people coming back, and working. However, I said it's the opposite. But we do have not just cases, but for example, programs. For example, USAID. USAID has a program called Diaspora Invest, where they invite, they handpick business people abroad who are Bosnians, and they work together with them to bring them back on the ground in Bosnia and Herzegovina and try to work with them in order to invest and to employ people here. Something similar is done through the Swiss embassy here in Bosnia and Herzegovina as well, through their iPlatform, iDiaspora platform, where they connect startups on the ground with successful startups and businesses abroad. And I will finish with that. Huge problem that we currently have is the lack of awareness about startup culture. That should be taught not when people are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, but when they are 10 years old, in primary school, in secondary school, not to mention universities. We should have subjects teaching startups, entrepreneurship, basically business, even early on, in primary school. Not because, to try to make projects when you're 10, but try to, bring young people into that state of mind, because I think it's the state of mind that's important when we speak about startups, entrepreneurship, and these business ideals. So individual cases, yes. Systematic, still, unfortunately, no. But I am optimist to see this coming, and I hope the spillover effect would also happen. If Kosovo kicks the ball, then I would really hope that we would have a spillover effect in other Western Balkan 6 countries.
Thank you, Samir. If I look at the time, I would ask Lumia not only to answer on the question on the best practice examples, but maybe already start into the final round and tell us a bit what would you say, especially the diaspora and also the receiving countries' governments, like the German government, could do to improve the situation and make it easier for the Western Balkan countries?
Ich finde halt, dass diese neue Form von Migration, ich habe in dem Chat so ein bisschen rumgeguckt und dann gibt es den Kommentar, dass die Migration auf dem Balkan Tradition hat, was ja auch stimmt. Aber die Pendelmigration ganzer Familien und nicht des männlichen Mitglieds, eines männlichen Mitglieds, das für Arbeit wirklich Geld verdienen wegging und regelmäßig nach Hause kam, größtenteils im Sommer weg war, im Winter kam oder umgekehrt, je nachdem, wo er zu Hause beschäftigt war, derjenige. Diese Form von Migration, dass ganze Familien wegzogen, in den 90er Jahren, hauptsächlich mit dem Zerfall des Ostblockes, aber insbesondere im ehemaligen jugoslawischen Raum, nach den Kriegen halt, das ist schon eine besondere Form der Pendelmigration und deshalb reden wir ja hier, weil es halt so viele sind und weil sie immer noch diesen engen Kontakt zu ihren Herkunftsländern aufbewahren. Streng genommen sind das ja Emigranten, Auswanderer. Auswanderer gehen und kommen nicht und spielen auch keine Rolle mehr für ihr Herkunftsland. Rückwanderer kommen und bleiben und spielen keine Rolle für das Aufenthaltsland, wo sie zwischendurch mal waren. Diese Pendelmigration ist halt das Besondere, dass diese Menschen in so einer hohen Zahl auf beiden Seiten sich ein Zuhause aufbauen. Es gelingt mal mehr, mal weniger, je nachdem, in welchem Land man sich so enger zugehörig fühlt. Aber beide Länder, sowohl das Aufenthaltsland, hier in unserem Beispiel ja Deutschland, als auch die Herkunftsländer, sehen in diesen besonderen Formen von Migrationen, in den Pendelmigrationen, kein Profit. Sie sehen keinen positiven Faktor auf bestimmte Entwicklungen. Sie werden nicht als Brücken betrachtet zwischen diesen beiden Ländern. Wenn Sie sich mal die bilateralen Abkommen und Projekte anschauen, wie viele von diesen Migranten in diesen Institutionen eine Rolle spielen. Das können Sie an den Namen beobachten, ist ziemlich rassistisch, lasse ich mich gern dafür kritisieren. Sie können sich aber die Biografien auch angucken, wie viele Menschen wie ich oder auch die später selbst ausgewandert sind, nicht mit den Eltern, für deutsche Organisationen und Behörden, Institutionen auf dem Balkan eine Rolle spielen und umgekehrt, wie viele Botschaften der Westbalkanländer in Deutschland Menschen wie mich oder auch andere, einen Arzt zum Beispiel, in einem wichtigen Posten in einer Botschaft setzt und sagt, hier bitte, du kennst Deutschland am besten, verbessere mal die Beziehungen zwischen unseren Ländern oder mach es effektiver oder in welcher Form auch immer. Das findet nicht statt. Und ich sehe eben nach wie vor einen Punkt mehr zu sagen, diese Pendelmigranten sind in beiden Seiten, in beiden Ländern eine Art Minderheit geworden, die von der Mehrheit als nicht profitabel betrachtet wird.
Is this in a way also the recommendations that you would say make more use of these people who can be a bridge between the two worlds and foster better relations, for example?
Auf jeden Fall. Auf jeden Fall, sei es auch für die Übergangsphase, um mal die finanzielle Not oder Absicherung zu gewährleisten, zu sagen, nicht nur zu sagen, macht mal, weil ich habe sowieso den Eindruck, dass dieses Thema, die Auswanderung der jungen Menschen als Problem zu sehen, ich beschäftige mich in meinem Projekt auch mit Kulturtransfer, so eine Art Denktransfer ist aus den westlichen Ländern, ihr habt ein Problem. Ich habe das Gefühl, das wird im Westbalkan nicht so gesehen, wie ich eingangs gesagt habe. Aber sie könnten Akzente setzen und sagen so, wir wählen ein paar Leute aus, wir schreiben was aus, wir müssen sie ja jetzt nicht unter der Hand auswählen für bestimmte Posten, für bestimmte Funktionen, für bestimmte Aufgaben, schicken sie da runter und sagen ja, hier, bitteschön, hier habt ihr die positiven Beispiele. Aber ich finde halt, dass jedes Land, sowohl Herkunftsland als auch Aufenthaltsland, im Ausland ein bestimmtes Image verkaufen möchte und dafür sind die Migranten halt nicht die besten Gesichter.
Thank you, Lumia. Sasha, what are policy recommendations from the Ebert study that you gathered?
In this youth study, you cannot find that in detail the recommendations that we wrote, but in 2019, when the youth study finished, FES actually developed a non-paper. It's called the New Deal for Youth of Western Balkan. I guess that Texona was talking about that. So in that non-paper, we actually developed a package of youth policies especially for Western Balkan 6 countries. And there are 20 different policies and programs. And I will be, I will be glad to share with you. So Christian, I will send it to you because you cannot find it online. It's a non-paper. It's basically, we share it with the stakeholders. So I will send you so you can actually send to the participants of this event. But in that paper, we have a different kind of policies like a regional youth guarantee, like a regional support system for young entrepreneurs, a regional system of recognition recognition on not formal and formal learning. So many regional online educational platform. So there are many policies that we developed, described, and examples of good practices that we actually wrote there. So I will definitely, maybe I can share here on the chat, or maybe I can send it to you. So.
Yes, please. You're more than welcome to share them on the chat. But then we can continue with Ixona's policy suggestions, looking probably at or taking into account all three sides. We have the countries of origin, countries of destination, and the diasporas who are somehow acting in between. What would you suggest?
Well, migration is a problem which I don't think that there is only one way solution. And looking for only one way to solve this problem, we will not reach to something sustainable. I think trying to only put this on a regional level and try to put this answers and find all the answers of this problem only in region, we will not come with a sustainable answer to that, and probably it's even harder. The problem is complex. That's why I think it's we need to see it in that way. Of course, there needs to be, we need some more integrated approach when it comes to finding solutions on migration. Yes, there are a lot of things that needs to improve in a regional level, but as well in a EU level. I mean, the problems that we are facing right now. We had the COVID situation. The problems in general. We are all Europeans in what I'm trying to say. So if we would only look for one regional solution on migration, we will not come to that end. I think we need as well we need to look for possibilities to integrate our approach and to come together to this solution. Yes, of course, migration, it is a big problem, but crisis has made us to realize that we are all Europeans together. So we need that approach. I think what we should try to focus is having more adaptive policies when it comes to the situation, and just trying to improve numbers will not decrease the numbers of people who are leaving. If we are trying only to focus on that, we will not come to the solution. We need to work way much more in the current situation that we have right now. Yes, people are leaving, some of them will come back, but we need as well to think about the people who are staying. What are the possibilities that we are giving to them? What kind of quality of life are we offering to the people who are choosing to stay in the region? And actually who live there, who their daily life, it's in the region. So not just trying to focus on bringing them back, but as well making a better life for the ones that are staying. There is no only one answer to the problem, because the problem itself, it's not only one way. So I think it is complex, but if we work more in an integrated approach, if we together work closely, I think we might lead to better solutions. And probably maybe just to conclude, I think, Christian, you at the beginning mentioned that young people in the region somehow lost hope. Well, I would like to reformulate that. I don't think young people in the region lost hope. I think they lost trust. They have lost trust in the institution. They have lost trust in their quality of life in the region. That's why they are looking somewhere else. I don't think they have lost hope, because luckily, I am lucky enough to work with these young people. I know how willing they are to make their life better. I can speak here for Kosovo, but I know that this is the situation for young people in the region as well. I don't think they have lost hope. yes, there is a lack of trust because of the obvious reasons, and as well all the discussions that we have right now. I think we should as well stop asking young people not to leave the country. This is not a way forward. If we're only asking them like don't leave, probably we can have a reverse situation, because just asking them not to leave, it's not a way that will end up to a solution. People need to have a choice. No matter if they live in Germany, if they live in Kosovo, if they live in Bosnia, it doesn't matter. They have the right to choose. But what we should really try to do is that the reason why they are choosing to leave their homeland, it's not because of the problems. It's not because they don't have any, because the lack of opportunities, but just because they want to. And only if we improve the indicators that are leading to this mass migration, probably only then we can literally ask and see how to move forward. So this is my answer to that.
Thank you for this. I think this is a very good point, that trust building is core, and also that governments, when they think about how to work with the situation, that this is not about imagining somehow an ideal world where everybody would return, which is probably very doubtful whether this would be an ideal world, but to work with the situation as it is and make the best of the situation as it is. Thank you for this. Samia, so you have the the final word in the panel.
Thank you very much. I absolutely agree, especially with Exona's last point and with her conclusion. In a sense, what strikes me the most when we speak, especially about migration, especially circular migration, is we cannot speak about any form of migration, especially circular migration, especially when we include the region. If we have countries within the region whose citizens cannot move freely, not within the Western Balkans or with the EU. And I'm speaking here first and foremost about my friends, peers, citizens from Kosovo. Kosovo is currently the only country in Europe whose citizens cannot travel to the EU. And this is not because of the Kosovo's government. This is because of the EU not delivering their promises. So we are now here speaking about EU not allowing citizens of Kosovo, despite the fact that their government has delivered what it was asked by the EU. Despite everything, their citizens are not allowed even to engage in circular migration. So everything that we have been speaking here so far, we can address it only in a limited way towards, in this case, my friend Exona and our peers from Kosovo and the whole of the citizens of Kosovo. This is one layer. An additional layer is the problem that we do have within the Western Balkans, that we have a visa regime still intact between Bosnia and Herzegovina and Kosovo. That is totally unacceptable. It is harmful for both countries, which basically breaks the connections between businesses, between families, between friends. It hinders tourism and it hinders development and growth. So if we want to speak about youth exchanges, circular migration, intra-regional student mobility programs that does not exist. By the way, if you're a student of the University of Sarajevo or of the University of Pristina, it is easier for you to go to study for 1 or 2 semesters at the University of Beijing than at the university, vice versa, Kosovo or in Pristina or in Sarajevo, and I can say that from my own experience, there was no way for me to go to a neighboring country within the region. This would boost not only, intra-regional mobility. It would not just, introduce what Exona and I in our joint op-ed for European Western Balkans call Erasmus Plus for the Balkans. It would also tackle something that nationalistic politicians in the Western Balkans profit from. It is nationalism, it is prejudice, and it is stereotypes. When young people migrate within the region, they meet each other, they break prejudices. Currently, Now, in 2021, it is easier for us to meet somewhere in the EU on a quote-unquote neutral ground than within the region. This should not be the case after 2021. We should work together with our own local governments, within regional governments, within the Western Balkans, together with German government and other EU governments to overcome this huge problem, this huge obstacle. And I really do think that with events such as this one, with organizations such as, in this case, Südosteuropa-Gesellschaft, that we can bring these issues and these problems on a higher level, raise awareness, not just among ordinary people, but most importantly among the decision makers, policy makers, both within the Western Balkans and the EU countries. And I think hopefully next year at Balkantage in Munich, we will be able to come there in person and without any visas, especially for young people from Kosovo. And let's hope that this is something that we should strive for. We have 365 days, and I think it is doable because a lot of these problems are just problems related to political decision making, not to structural problems that are on the ground. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Samir. And I agree very much. This would be extremely nice if we would be next year at Balkantage able to actually meet in person and have further discussions. We are a bit over time, but I would like to thank the audience for bearing with us so long and the organizers for also bearing with our delay. I think it was definitely worth it. It was a very interesting discussion. I would like to thank the panel a lot. I've learned a lot today. I think two crucial points I take from this discussion is, on the one hand, probably homework to do for the Western Balkan governments, focus on reforms, on making the Western Balkans a more livable place, and also a place more open for remigrants, because we know that we have a very motivated group out there of people who've gained very useful experiences, who would probably like to rejoin their families, who would like to live in the Western Balkan countries, but currently do not get the chance to do so. So more openness towards these people would make the chances of return much higher. And on the other side, of course, for the EU, the homework that it should actually deliver on its promises, taking into account the questions of mobility also now brought up, but also, of course, on the accession process, which we learned today also is a lot related to these migration questions. And I think we should end on an optimistic note. We've become much more aware of these questions, not only today, but already in the process of discussing these issues in the realm of the EU Council presidency of Germany last year. We will continue to work on these. And yeah, as we said, I'm looking forward to see progress on these issues, even despite of the ongoing pandemic. I hope that we will meet in person next year at the Balkantage. I wish you a successful and nice Balkantage event despite of the current situation, and wish you a nice evening for today. Good night and see you at our next event. Bye-bye.
Vielen Dank. Thank you.